Okay, so this video will deal with your introductions and conclusions. And I know this is a part that can be challenging for you, but it really doesn't have to be. If you'll notice in the rubric that I gave you, I have given you your method of introduction. That is this imagined scenario. And I kind of do this not only to help you all, to give you a foothold and something creative that you can build on, but it's also fun, especially when you're in class together, is because I allow you to speak on anything you'd like. We get all these different speeches, but I like to put in a little thing that everyone needs to do along the same lines. And you begin to allow your creativity to take over. And so the introduction and the conclusion are 50 points apiece if you look at the grading sheet. Um, and so they have value, even though totally for your speech, it might be 30 seconds, maybe a minute in total for your speech. So they are short, but they're important. So I want you to give it some thought. I've given you the example that the girl who was talking about anxiety and how she used that imagine being trapped in an elevator in complete darkness with a bunch of other people. And you'll mention that, you'll see that we never mentioned the word anxiety. Instead, we slowly built and used a scenario to make people think, okay, I can imagine that. And you build on that theme. So I want all of you to try this out and to take your time. Whatever your key word is, in this case it was anxiety, I don't want to hear that key word in your first sentence. Okay? Here's the bad way to do this. Imagine you have anxiety. Oh, now I already know what you're talking about. You haven't built that type of suspense as I go, okay, what are we going for here? That keeps people engaged. So I don't want to hear that key word right in that first sentence or even second sentence. I want you to build and get to it eventually. If you can imagine, um, with that elevator scenario, I could have gone in a lot of different directions, but I slowly, or she slowly built to ultimately saying, this is how people with anxiety feel. And you'll notice it's very important that you're going to have a couple of key words. It's important that you give those key words space. You, you leave a little silence before it, okay? You don't say, this is how people with anxiety feel. And I'll go, what did she say? What word was that? This is how people with anxiety feel. You have to give that key word a little space and then emphasize it so that everyone knows exactly what you're talking about. In this case, anxiety. When you start talking fast, you lose your diction, and the last thing you want is for half of the room to think you're talking about anxiety, and for your other half to think you're talking about another key, right? I go, what? So practice that. Emphasize your key words and use this imagined scenario. Now for your conclusion, I am very simple. I don't mind if you just say, in conclusion, and I know there are teachers that say, you never do that. For me, I just want an indicator that your speech is coming to an end. And once you say those two wonderful words, in conclusion, you should have a little clock in the back of your head that says, okay, I've got 20 seconds. And I want to leave you with something powerful, short and powerful. And so, whatever you want to do with it, just remember, I have asked you to kind of loop back to your imagined scenario. This is another way to get you through your conclusion. Take a look at what you created, what you asked us to imagine at the start, and then tie it back together in your conclusion by referencing that imagined scenario. You'll be fine. This is a great way for you early on in the class to have solid footing with both your introductions and your conclusions.